General Mason, what do you think will be China's response in the long run here? You know, if I were to take a leaf out of what's happened between Russia and Ukraine, in these times it's not just about military action. There could be economic sanctions as well, and that is a real concern for Taiwan.
Absolutely. Whenever certain scenarios take place, there are 3, 4 issues which are very important to be understood. One is, of course, the military front, one is the diplomatic, and one is the economic. And all three are actually complementary. Now, military front, except for muscle flexing and some kind of exercising and violation of airspace, nothing much has been done. So, in true words, as a military analyst, I feel credibility of China's military or military power has been questionable now, really. Because if you have made such strong statements and not taking any action so far, again I am repeating so far, will put them in a little low standing in the international scenario. I have no doubts on that. Now coming on to the economic aspect. See, economic aspects is one of the easiest things, and today this is a tool which most of the nations do apply. But it hurts actually both. Whoever implies sanctions or imposes sanctions, and who, after all, China and United States are one of the largest trading partners. So it will affect both ways. Even with between China and Taiwan, it will affect both ways. Because today, all said and done, Taiwan is one of the leading producers of electrical and all these kind of goods, machinery, and especially chips, etc., which is utilized everywhere. And in the same way, it is, imposing, let's see at the Russia-Ukraine front. Today, the gas and oil is required by most of Europe. So they are suffering on that account. But Russia is also suffering. It's not getting chips, etc., microchips and all. So military equipment is also being affected. And last front is, of course, the diplomatic front. See, diplomatic front, let's look at the Russia-Ukraine war. Diplomatically and as on date, I would term it as follows. See, there are two things. One is the war and one is the battles. Day-to-day battles, as on date, are being won by Russia. But if the war, let's analyze the war, because ultimately it's the war. I think war is being gradually lost by Russia. I will explain how. See, Finland, Sweden have joined or on the verge of joining NATO. Ukraine was a target. Ukraine will never ever ally in whatever manner it is, whether it is a broken Ukraine or the eastern part of it is off or whatever it is. Ukraine will never ever align with them. So they have lost. So therefore the western, I would say the Russian borders along the entire Europe is today hostile towards Russia. So they really have no friends in Europe. Coming on to China. Now China again, coming again onto the war and the battles. See, they are losing the battles also and they are losing war also. Because today, how did COD emanate? Because of the Russian belligerent attitude in the Indo-Pacific region. AUKUS has emerged again because of this attitude of the Chinese. And therefore, starting from Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, Philippines, all these nations, and even Hong Kong, the unrest always is there. So China is, and the kind of military activity or the naval activity of the United States in the Indo-Pacific. And from this is the only area where the Chinese mainland can be threatened. Incidentally, from India to threaten the Chinese mainland is not easy. Reason being because our military aircrafts will not have reached up to the Chinese mainland, and they have advantage vis-a-vis India because they are at a higher plane and the Tibet plateau. The lift capability may be affected, but the reach within mainland India is easier. Whereas in the Indo-Pacific front, the military hardware of supposing COD or maybe United States or so-called AUKUS, if some kind of a conflict takes place, South Korea, Philippines, Japan, military reach is enhanced. All these islands, and they have got a large coast, vulnerable coast. So therefore, coming on to the present situation on the military-wise, I think the war in that front is being lost by Russia. Yes, battles are being won by Russia, I have no doubts. But today it is losing friends. Who are the friends of Russia, the true friends? Syria, North Korea, Iran, are they worth friendship? They are losing a standing. Today even India is not a true friend of Russia. Yes, we have got our interest, they also have our interest, and Russia is not giving us anything free. And that is why today India has realized we are going for diversification, we are going for indigenization, we are taking military hardware from rest of the world. So we have diversified.
For me,
So
General
look at
Mason,
China.
from what you're
Yeah.
telling me, is that China essentially has increasingly become more belligerent. It seemed to be using its Belt and Road Initiative also to spread its sphere of influence by hook or by crook. And several countries that fell into China's debt trap are increasingly waking up to the threat posed by Beijing. In the United Kingdom, for example, you look at Rishi Sunak aspiring to be the British Prime Minister. In most of the debates, he in fact reserved his harshest criticism for China, saying that China, Beijing, poses the biggest threat even to Britain.
An aggressive military power, an economic superpower. China's hostile policies have kept its neighbors and the West forever on the edge. The latest leader to talk of the China threat is Britain's Prime Minister contender Rishi Sunak, who labelled Beijing as UK's enemy number one. During his campaign, Rishi Sunak laid out his plans to take on China if he made it to 10 Downing Street. Sunak said he would close all 30 Confucius institutes running in Britain to prevent the spread of Chinese influence through culture and language. Britain's spy agency MI5 will be employed to combat Chinese espionage. Sunak claimed the dragon was stealing UK's technology. The former finance minister of Britain recognized the threat China was posing to India. India has been in a standoff with China alongside the LAC for 2 years now, with more than 15 rounds of talks bearing no fruit. India has cracked down on Chinese business, its apps following the Faceoff. But nothing has stirred China as it keeps provoking Indian forces stationed in eastern Ladakh. US-China ties are faring no better. The latest confrontation is over Speaker Nancy Pelosi's visit to Taiwan, the growing flashpoint in Asia. Many other nations share concerns over China's expansionist vision, but Beijing appears unfazed despite slowly being isolated in the world. Bureau Report, India Today.